If you really want to get raw on Monday nights, tune into the Beyond Ringside Radio Network at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 8:30 Central Time for the Midnight Black Mass Podcast. Myself, the Reverend Dan the Dragon Wilson, along with the Strong Style Psycho Tank and Andrew Alexander, bring you a truly blood-curdling experience. Uncensored, uncut, and only on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network.
Forget all you know about podcasts. We welcome you to an experience uniquely different. Please join us for our coverage of all entertainment on the fringe of society. The candles are lit, the lights are down low. It is now time to welcome our host as he steps up to the pulpit. The sacrifice has been prepared for the midnight black mass.
Ghastly greetings, groovy ghoulies, and welcome to the return for 2018 of the Midnight Black Mass Podcast right here on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network. I am your host, the maniacal minister of the occult, the devil you know, the Reverend, the Dragon, Dan Wilson, and I'm glad to be back. 2018 started off with a bang as I finally got one of the awards and pieces of recognition that I always wanted to get with the Georgia Wrestling History Booker of the Year, so I appreciate everybody that voted for me for that. That's pretty awesome. I'm glad to introduce my co-host tonight. Now, I will say the Strong Style Psycho Tank. He may be joining us later in the hour, but he had some personal commitments he had to tend to briefly. So right now, me and Andrew Alexander, the one-man gangbang himself, the Mouse of Hell. How you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. You won Booker of the Year?
I did. From one Booker of the Year to another.
That's some Mark shit.
Ah!
It wasn't when I won. It was a legit contest.
Of course not.
I'm sure it was rigged. Well, that's good. Congratulations, Jess. Good to be back. New year, same old shit. Man, I didn't even make a New Year's resolution this year. Like, it's like, what's the point?
Well, I mean, you know, we're probably all going to die in a nuclear holocaust any day now. So, hey.
Fingers crossed.
So, you know, it's been a while since we changed the format of the show up. This show's been going on 11 years almost, it seems like. And I believe that's right. God damn, that's a long fucking time. On various formats. It started off on Blog Talk Radio. We hosted it on our own Potty Humor website for a while. We went to the Georgia Wrestling History Radio Network for a while, and now probably the longest home we've had consecutively here on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network. And so for 2017, the format of the show was a very loose discussion. I wouldn't have any topics prepared. It was just three old friends, me, Andrew, and Tank, sitting down and shooting the shit about wrestling and any other things in our lives that were important or that we just liked and wanted to talk about. So this year, I want to kind of take it back to some of the original format of the show when we used to have guests on. I really enjoy speaking to different people from different life, whether it be wrestling, horror movies. We've had some damn famous guests on here, AJ Styles, Phil Anselmo, former singer of Pantera, Hank Williams III, Unknown Henson. I mean, you know, the list of guests has just been quite impressive, but we kind of abandoned that for a while. We're going to get back to it. So it's my honor to welcome the first guest of 2018. It's a guy who I've seen almost since his first bump in the ring, and I couldn't be prouder of where he is today. And there's no limit to where he's going to go. Let me just say that. The People's Captain, the Anarchy Triple Crown Champion. He says he's the real world champion, and it's hard to argue. Mr. Gunnar Miller, welcome to the show, the 2017 Georgia Wrestling History Wrestler of the Year.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on. Quite the introduction there. Appreciate it.
It's what I do, man.
Well, you're good at it.
You won Wrestler of the Year?
Yeah, man. Where you been?
Oh, that's smart shit, too. No, that's good, man. No, I did hear about that one, actually. That's pretty awesome for sure.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. Anarchy almost swept the awards this year. It was quite a year, but Gunnar, of course, got his start back at Empire Wrestling. And, from the second this guy walked in the door, we were all like, okay, this guy's got potential, but potential only gets you so far. I've seen a lot of guys in great shape come from different sports, think they were going to conquer the world, and give up after 2 months because it was hard. This guy's done the exact opposite. So, I don't want to ask the cliche, like, how did you get started in wrestling? Because we're going to kind of talk about that journey. But as a child, like, what do you recall a specific moment that stoked that flame inside of you that made you want to do this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so it's funny because I'm going to say it's the first time I ever watched it, but I didn't watch wrestling. And one of my assistant coaches in baseball, Mike Long, he started talking about wrestling because I was pretty aggressive in sports. And I was 6 years old, and he was like, I don't know what he said I was or whatever, he referenced wrestling. He's like, you need to watch that. Well, Mom wasn't happy about it. So I turned it on at the house and fell in love with it immediately because it was 1997, so it was right at the start of the Monday Night Wars, and it was when everything was getting hot, and I was flipping back from WCW and WWF, and it was just awesome. And so we went from there.
Outstanding. So, the Monday Night Wars was a time that bred a lot of wrestling fans, and, a lot of them have gone by the wayside, but some of them, like you got the bug and it never went away. And you started, of course, in college, your first notoriety, your first taste of any sort of national spotlight came as a football player for the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. How did the discipline and the structure of that prepare you for your career today?
Man, it did just about all the structure. So, I mean, in college, you have to get up at a certain time. You have to be at certain places at a certain time. And this is all just for football. So say you wake up at 5:30, you have to be at treatment for the training room at 6 if you're hurt, which I was hurt my entire career. And then, you got classes by 8, and then you got to be at workouts by, say, 10. Then you have to make sure you get lunch in by noon, and then you got to go to your next class, and then you have to be at meetings by 2:15, and you have to be dressed and ready to be out in the field by 3:45, and then you finish up by 5:30, then you get dinner, and then you go to study hall from 7:30 to 9, which is always right in the middle of Monday Night Raw. So I was never happy about that. So I usually skipped on Mondays, and that's pretty much it. And you wake up and do the same thing every day.
I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you're younger and in sports, I don't think you think about that structure, how positive it is. But I know because I wasn't active in sports like that. I've always kind of regretted that because I think it can be a big help, not only in any aspect of life, but especially wrestling, because you have to have a lot of structure and more discipline opposed to someone like me and Dan who just were lazy fucks and did whatever we wanted throughout high school and stuff. So I think it's a huge advantage that you may not think about as a kid. When you were in high school / college and playing football, did you know at that point you wanted to be a wrestler, or was it just kind of in the back of your mind, you didn't really think about it that much?
So, like elementary school, middle school, huge into wrestling. And it was like, that was like the thing, like everybody else said, I want to be a firefighter and stuff. I was like, I want to be a wrestler. But then you kind of get in high school, and that was, I guess, when I first noticed that, oh, so all these people don't like wrestling, so wrestling's not that cool. Okay, I'm going to keep it on the DL. I'm not going to, like, be that big of a fan. I'm going to just focus on sports. And then it was, I was really good at baseball, probably better than I was at football. But people thought that I would do college in baseball. So as soon as that kind of happened, it was like challenge accepted. If I'm not good enough to play football in college, I'm going to go play football in college. So my junior year, I kind of decided I wanted to play football. And then I get there, but I've always painted my face up like the Ultimate Warrior. So I was still a fan. And then when I got to college, I was like, you know what? If people don't like me being a fan of wrestling, whatever. So I'm going to be a fan. So I started like I came out of the closet of my wrestling, fan thing again. So then started watching it a lot in college and like really just, saying, this is kind of what I want to do. Kind of as a joke in a way, or like you say, hey, I want to go make this invention up and I'm going to go create this. And everybody's like, okay, cool. Until you actually do it and you're like, oh, he did that. That's kind of how it was. Like I always talked about it and it was like, oh, he's actually going to do this. And then here's the Ultimate Warrior coming around sending us videos. And then here's Briscoe tweeting me. And then, oh, here's a tryout set up. So it just kind of happened, kind of organically, but just based off of thinking about it all the time.
And we're definitely going to talk about that a little more here in a minute. You did very early in your wrestling experience get that taste and get a tryout with the WWE before you'd really ever had any training of any substance. And so, there's got to be a story there, and I want to talk about it. But just one other thing that I wanted to add as we're talking about the football background. When you go to guys who are athletes, I think it is a huge advantage. I mean, I love guys who are diehard wrestling fans, and it's all they ever wanted to do. But generally, those guys are the guys that obsessed over buying wrestling figures and studying wrestling tapes, and not so much working out in the gym where they should have been. And so because of that, they tend to lack that star quality. And also, they're not very coachable. So even if they later got in shape, if they still kind of have that mentality, which, I mean, is more my mentality, which is why I became a manager and an announcer and a booker, is that those guys are not as coachable. But athletes like you can coach them. Guys who are in the military, like Chad Lale, the former gunner, Phil Shatter, had that structure.
The fake gunner.
Oh, come on. I see Jesse Bailey's rubbing off on you, pal.
Oh, that's our running joke. He knows. Just please don't kill Chad, please.
I mean, you are the real gunner. It is on your birth certificate.
That's what I tried to tell him. He wasn't listening. He's like, well, I've been wrestling with this. I carry this thing around the world. I was like, well, I was born with this name. Sorry, pal.
But guys like him, either from a military or sports background, you're coachable. You listen to what people who've been there and done that have to say, and you don't necessarily have to apply everything because it might not apply to you or your situation, but you're smart enough to weed that out. So just when you see guys who won't take advice, what goes through your mind?
Well, really, in any aspect of life, it blows my mind. If somebody's been there and they've done it and they had success at it, or if they failed at it and it's similar to the same, situation you're in, and then they learn from that mistake and then succeeded later on, and they try to tell you to keep you from failing because they did fail at that. I don't know why these guys just won't say, it's probably a good idea. Let me follow his advice. But no, they just want to learn the hard way.
I mean, it just blows my mind because you see the guys who have success, and now it's not mutually exclusive. Certainly a lot more different personality types and work ethic types, should I say, are getting opportunities now due to the popularity of indie wrestling. But when you see guys like that, I don't know. I'm not going to keep going on and on about it, but it blows my mind. You can see the results with the success you're having and they're not, and it's why wouldn't you do what the successful guys are doing? Anyway, Andrew, so you were the booker for Empire Wrestling when Gunner got trained, and kind of take us back to that time and walk us through that process, and kind of talk with Gunner about those early days, and give me a feel, or especially our audience a feel, for what it was like when you saw this puppy with big paws for the first time.
When I first met him, I kind of just assumed what I would assume with most people wanting to get in the business, that he wouldn't last or he wouldn't be worth a shit. And that's just because it's so easy to say, I want to be a wrestler. And obviously we've all said it, and a lot of guys go to different levels and stuff, but I was like, okay, just some football player, thinks he can wrestle, and maybe he can, but we'll see, but I don't expect too much. But you can't even hold, I know I couldn't even hold that type of attitude long at all, because he's such a likable, nice guy, very respectful, took advice and listened, and even if he thought maybe, oh, this dude's full of shit, he just said something that I've said kind of to people before that I've tried to help. Like, yeah, I totally failed at being a wrestler, but do you not think that I dedicated my life to trying to make it, and I failed, that I don't ask myself, like, every day why I failed, and tried to look into those details and see what I messed up and what I should have done here and what I should have done there? Like, it makes me a pretty decent person to give that type of advice, because I've analyzed it to no end. So he was always very coachable and very respectful. And that wins you over pretty quick. I wouldn't have cared if he wasn't, let's just call a spade. Former Empire star Logan Alvey wasn't very good in the ring, but he was always super respectful and listened and a nice guy. So I pushed him to the top, because I didn't give a shit about what he could do in the ring as much as his attitude. And Gunnar Miller had that attitude. So instantly I was like, okay, let's see what this guy's got. And correct me if I'm wrong, was your first match a tag match?
It was. So originally we were going to wait till after the tryout to have my match, but then the announcer at UTC, Ron Hall's daughter, they wanted to do a fundraiser for her. So Josh came to me and was like, hey, I know you don't want to do this, but would you do this for this? And I was like, yeah, absolutely, let's do it. So we had the match, I believe it was in March, and it was tag match. It was me and Josh versus Tempers and Viper.
Yeah, and after seeing that match, I remember being legitimately just blown away about how good and how natural and the presence that you had. Like, it was uncanny. It's something I've never seen. I've seen a lot of people's first match, 100th match, 1000th match, and nowhere near what you had. And I was just like, holy shit. And then the second match was a singles. Well, it was against Tempers, right?
Yep, at Empire. In Raleigh.
Yeah, and I remember specifically watching that match, and I've only said this about two people that I've encountered. I've thought a lot of people that I've met should get an opportunity and could possibly make it and just main event a WrestleMania. But two people I've known that if they don't get that chance, it is a absolute crying shame. And that's Bill Shatter, the fake Gunner, Chad Lale, and you. And I saw you, your second match ever, your first singles match. I said, that guy is a WrestleMania main eventer. He's a star. He will be a millionaire. He'll be in the WWE, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Your second match ever, I knew it. And you've just got, since then, increasingly better. I won't see you wrestle now. I see you like once every 6 months, and every time you're leaps and bounds better than the time before, and it's amazing to me.
No, I appreciate that, man. A lot of it had to do with Tempers was in the ring with me. So, he can make somebody look good too. So that helps.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm fully aware of that, and I knew that day. But still, there was so many things that you can't. There's things that you had that you can't really teach, and you certainly can't teach before someone's first singles match. I mean, in that short of time, like I knew, okay, he looks even better because of who's in the ring with, but there was also a lot of other things that was like, yeah, this guy has it.
I appreciate that, man. It probably had to do a little bit of something. I studied a lot more wrestling film in college than I actually studied the actual homework. If I had done the opposite, I'd had a better GPA most likely. But I seem to want to start studying, and all I do is watch old wrestling tapes.
Nothing wrong with that.
No.
Want to include our producer here, Mr. Fast Eddie Layne. This episode was actually supposed to happen last week. We had some technical difficulties. We were able to make it happen again tonight. I just wanted to thank him for his involvement and see if he had a question for the champ.
You know, first off, great to be here. Second off, welcome back for 2017. Third off, congratulations on the, what did Andrew call it, the Mark-ass shit Booker of the Year? Which is a huge honor from GWH. Larry Goodman doesn't pull punches, although some of us wish we would. Now,
thank you.
Gunner, you know, when you have situations in play where you have so many people, and I have seen this, I have heard this, I have read this, you have so many people coming at you from so many different directions, bestowing the accolades, bestowing the compliments. I know you feel the admiration in so many different directions from fans, co-workers, promoters, all the way across the board. What keeps you grounded to where you don't let the hype become the top of the line?
That's a great question. It probably starts like with my roots. You know, coming up playing sports and everything, or anything that I did, if I was doing yard work, playing sports, whatever. My dad's really close with me. You know, it's almost like, you know, he's my dad, yeah, and I respect him like he's almost like a best friend, you know, at the same time. But he's that best friend that I never want to piss off because I know he'll, like, probably kill me. So I didn't want to do that, especially as a kid. So, you know, anything that I ever had to do, it was yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. You know, make sure the job's done right, because if it's worth doing, it's worth doing right. And then, you know, when somebody does tell you, hey, you did the job right, you know, just say, you know, thank you, you know, it's kind of how it's supposed to be done, you know, like not take credit for it being right, just kind of, that's how we're supposed to do it. So, I mean, people say nice things, you know, definitely appreciated, but you have to stay humble. The guys that start believing in the hype themselves is usually when the candle kind of fizzles out. So I just know that there's always room to try harder and get better. There's always going to be somebody out there better than you, so you got to compete against that person.
Fantastic. And your dad is one of my favorite people in and around the wrestling business. It's so cool that you have that great support system. You know, when you run into a lot of people in the wrestling business that don't, I mean, you know, my family, like they think it's cool that I do it, but you know, I could probably count on one hand the number of events they've been to, you know, and I just think it's really awesome that your dad is so involved.
And like, honestly, I don't know what it's like and mom too, because I mean, she came a lot more at the beginning, and then when I started traveling, she didn't come as much, not because she didn't want to come, because she does want to come. She still wants to come, and she will, but when I got with Jeff and we kind of did the whole crazy heel turn there in Georgia, she can't handle the people booing me whatsoever. So, like, if she's there, it's going to get real. So, like, the look on her face, you can say whatever you want to about wrestling. Nothing scripted about that look. So all those emotions are real. So whenever anybody tries to mess with her in the crowd, just don't make Dad too mad and aware of it, because he's filming my match and I need that, you know, to go to YouTube. But other than that, you know, just don't make her mad. So but, you know, I wish more people had all their parents around to come watch, because it means a lot. Because there's times I'm like, I don't want to do, you know, something's going wrong, whatever, but Dad's always right there. He always has been. It's never been an issue with any sport.
Yeah, that's really awesome, and that that support will help you a lot in the rough times, because this is a very roller coaster business, man. One moment they love you and you're the greatest thing since sliced bread, and the next minute they hate your fucking guts, and over something that you didn't even intend to do. Maybe it's a crazy business, and so it's good to have that support when you have those lows, and hopefully you're going to have a whole lot more highs than lows. The way you react to things. And one thing I always said in commentary at Anarchy was, you never make the same mistake twice. That's something Bailey says about you as well. Speaking of Bailey, what has Jeff G. Bailey, the legendary manager of champions, meant to your career?
Man, I definitely have no clue where I'd be right now leaving Empire if Jeff's not around. I mean, I don't even know. I wouldn't even have the first guess to where. I mean, I don't know which direction we'd went in. I don't know how they got started. I think I'd done the same two promotions. It was Wild Wrestle and then PCW, but I don't know if it would have went even close to where we're at right now, because Jeff is. He's a shot caller most places we go. It's so cool to be in a locker room with Jeff, because I know if there's even something I kind of don't like, he can sense it on my face now and be like, nope, not doing it. We are not doing that. Then everybody listens to him. So I don't have to say anything to anybody. I'm kind of like protected. We got Jeff over there calling the shots.
Yeah, Jeff don't mind taking that heat for you.
No, he don't care at all. I mean, literally. And if I do get heat, I almost don't even like using. I mean, I guess I have to now because I'm a wrestler. But like all the wrestling terms everybody uses, like the heat and over and all that stuff, I'm like, we can use all that. I'm sure all you guys use it because you've been in it forever. But like the guys have been in it for 1 year and using all these cool words that like they shouldn't even know unless they're just like fans. Like I don't know. But anyways, it's different story.
No, I like that.
I love this guy.
Like there has to be like a certain years in the business before you can start like using those words. I think that should be a new rule, but that's just me.
Kind of like the 7-year rule for a fanny pack.
There should be lots of new rules. But man, yeah, when I heard that Bailey was going to be managing you, I was like, oh, that's going to be so cool, because of various reasons. Not only just the knowledge that you'd get from him, but that type of protection. And not only protection, but it's like, you're not going to be put in a position. I mean, you shouldn't be put in a position to do stupid shit anyway, but you're definitely not going to be with Bailey as your manager just because most people would know better than to think they're going to be able to put him in a stupid position. He's just not going to go for it, and he demands that respect to where it's not going to happen. So it's a great tool to have, just him being there. Not calling him a tool. I mean, I would only do that.
No, right. Well, and it's kind of just like Dad in a way, like coming up, it was a smooth transition for me as far as like coaching, because like Dad, my high school coach, my college coach, and Jeff all share this one similar quality, and that is, okay, this was good, this was good, this was good. We'll tell you it's good, every now and then, but here's what was bad. Here's what was bad. And then that allows me to not make that mistake for the next match. So I was able to progress a little bit, just the one little bad thing at a time, and they've gotten fewer and fewer, so now we're like going into like the psychology of stuff now instead of just the moves and the transitions and all that. So I like where we're at right now because I'm actually getting to learn what goes behind wrestling. So that's pretty cool.
And you're picking it up very quickly, so that's always good. And now Jeff can be a stern taskmaster. Has there ever been any time where he just got up your ass that you were like, all right, man?
No, I don't mean he hasn't. It might be like a spot here, a spot there, but me and Jeff have never had words. It's never been. But also going back to my past, I never had a crossed word with my parents or my sister or any coach I ever had my entire life. That's just, that's like a huge respect thing for me, but it was just like, I know my place and I know that, I'm one listening. I don't need to say anything. Whether they're right or wrong, what's me arguing this going to get me at that point in my life? Nothing. So, same thing with Jeff. Like, I would never be like, well, I thought it was okay. I would never say that to Jeff, ever. Even if I knew like I was right. Like, I would never say that to him.
Yeah, you're a smart man.
Dan, I was going to say that, I mean, you've been around him a lot more lately, but I was going to ask, have you ever even seen Gunner mad, like legit pissed off? Because I haven't. You know, and that's crazy to say, because I can't say that about hardly anybody, but, you know, he just doesn't have that temperament. He's totally, he stays calm and cool under any situation, as far as I've seen. But that, you know, the thing is I can't even picture Bailey jumping him that much and being that hard on him, not because of any type of fear or anything like that, but because he just and it sucks because we're just kissing your ass this whole interview, but it's easy to do because you just don't make the type of mistakes that require someone to scream at you. I mean, I never.
Well, I did. I made one.
Had to say something like that at Empire. You know, you just don't make those type of mistakes.
I take that back. I need to. Actually, that whole thing I just said, I did miss one part. So the Scenic City Night 1 in 2016. After that match was over, it wasn't like Jeff chewed me out, but it was almost like it's almost like I had all this food and I gave it to a puppy for a whole year, and I was like, okay, now you can eat it. And then as soon as he was about to eat it, I just kicked the bowl over. And he was just like, what did we just do? Like, what happened? So I feel like that's kind of like what happened that night.
Damn. Well, you got redemption, so, you know, all good. But it's like, man, you kind of lucked out because I think you got, like, older, kinder, gentler Jeff, because he used to be a fucking savage sometimes, even with the guys he managed. You know,
well, if he does get mad, I guess he takes it out on other people, because I've seen him jump other people. So I don't know if he's like, I don't want to get mad at him, so I'm going to kill this person. I don't know if he does that or not. But, no.
Possibly.
No, I got a
So,
feeling if you did something truly that stupid, he'd let you know.
I mean, I hope so.
Yeah,
I mean, I think we have that relationship to where he would, and he'd be like, oh, man, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. It won't happen again.
But that's just it, man. Like, I've watched the last handful of times I've seen you compete, whether it be at the Scenic City events and things such as that. I look closely. I'm like, okay, let me find something that this guy's missing or hasn't picked up, or a mistake he's going to make. And like, you can do it, but it may be something nitpicky. It may be something ridiculous, and it's probably something that's not your fault. Like, I've done it. I've looked. I'm like, okay, I'm going to find something. I'm going to tell this guy, and there's just nothing. So there's probably just typically really no room for Jeff or anyone else to really, other than small pointers, which, you know, typically isn't going to make someone angry. I just can't picture a time of having to pull you aside and being like, what the fuck are you doing out there? But the match you mentioned, I actually missed that. I heard there were issues with it, but I never got to see it. But I can't picture
you'll leave you a bad taste in your mouth.
Gunner, if I may, you were making a reference to a flip in theology a little while ago. Okay, heel turn. With your demeanor, I have to ask this question. Which do you feel suits you better, that you can actually convey more of your true self? Working heel, working face, or that gray area in between that very few can really hit?
I don't want to sound like I'm that guy, but I feel like I'm one of those guys that can get away with let's just let him kind of be him, turn him up a little bit, and then different places are going to react to him in different ways. I think you can definitely be booked in certain stories to where, obviously, you know, you're going to be heel and people are going to boo you no matter what, because it's just how it is. It's good booking or whatever. But at usually shows, it's at, like, you know, one spot, but you go in there and you're going to work heel, but you still act the same way you act at all these other places, but they actually cheer you at this place. I mean, it just kind of works in different ways. So I think I'm one of those guys that's in that, you know, in between. Also, I'm one of those guys that gets booed for no reason, strictly off my looks.
And I've got one more that I want to throw at you. And this is probably going to make you think harder than any other question that you've heard so far. And you're going to have to dig down deep for this answer. You're entering into a War Games circumstance where you get to pick your partners, but it's from a select group. Who would those partners be? The Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, or One Direction?
The Backstreet Boys, without a doubt.
3.4 seconds on the answer, kids.
It could have been quicker. I even had to hesitate just because I didn't want y'all to make fun of me.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, I don't think it's a very well kept secret at all that Gunner is a huge pop music fan and is constantly posting his love for Taylor Swift and the like. So I'm not
Taylor
surprised
Swift and
at all
Cardi
that he had.
Okay, Gunner, that's going to cost you
There
$5.
you go.
We have a $5 fine anytime somebody mentions TS. You owe us $5.
You can go ahead and kick me off the show because I won't do the rest of it if you don't like Taylor Swift.
She's better in pop than she was in country.
Whatever. She's cool.
Hey man, different strokes for different folks. It's hilarious to me because I'm sure, like, riding in the car with me, you're like, "What the fuck is this guy listening to?" You know, 'cause
No,
it's all like
I listen to that
metal,
stuff too,
but-
though. I am the easiest music/TV/movie listener, watcher in the world. I like it all.
Really?
It's like, hey, what do you want to watch? I don't care. Yeah, I like it all. It doesn't matter. As long as, like, because there's no, like, in my head, there's people that worked really hard to put that together to put it on TV. I don't just want to, like, not like it, especially if I pay to go watch it.
Yeah, that's how I look at it.
I'm not a critic.
If I thought you were a true MASH fan, I'd have the question for you.
Dude,
I have
can
no
you
clue about
imagine? I want to go to a Taylor Swift concert with you just to get some of the run over. Because I imagine if you walk in Taylor Swift, that panties just fucking start flying everywhere.
Well, that's the plan, right? So Taylor's in Nashville, I think, like August 25th. I mean, I know that for a fact. I don't know why, but like August 25th. So I know that for a fact. And I'm definitely planning on being there. So, you know, if you're in the area, come on down.
Well, I mean, if I could get the ugliest chick that threw herself at you, I would be happy.
If you do, you have to agree to live stream it on the Potty Humor YouTube channel.
Live stream what? Me fucking some ugly chick that's...
No. Everything up to the concert. I don't want to see the rest of it.
Well, fuck you then. I was ready to... Well, shit. Fine, whatever.
No, Andrew, you can actually do it. You can do it on the Beyond Ringside YouTube channel as long as it is done to the song "Look What You Made Me Do."
So I got a $1 million question for you, Gunnar Miller. Why the holy hell are you on this stupid podcast talking to us? Why the fuck aren't you on Raw tonight?
I don't know. That's a good question. They haven't told me to come down there because I would like to.
I mean,
That'd be cool.
their deal? What's their deal? Like, they make a lot of stupid decisions, but this seems like one of the big ones. I mean, what's their hold up, right?
Like, I guess right after the tryout, about 6 months after the tryout, I was told that it was down to me and 4 guys that they liked that really impressed them. They signed 2 of them, and then one of the other guys, I think, tore his ACL at the tryout. So he's not doing it anymore. And then one of the guys that actually did sign is not doing it anymore. They cut him pretty quick. And the other guy is actually in Ring of Honor right now. That's Josh Woods. And he's the only one still doing it. Out of the girls that signed, one of them got kicked out, and then the other one is on SmackDown right now. She just appeared. So, but that was, I don't know, man. I mean, I tried hard. I wish I'd went down there like last year instead of in 2014 before I had a match. Because they kind of put me in that category of he's an athlete, so we have to completely train him instead of in the indie wrestler category, which I was at the time. But if they'd have just let me come in like a year later, I think it'd be a different story.
You can't get down on yourself about that. I mean, exactly. They had that mentality that, oh, you were just another former football player looking for an easy ride. And unlike 99.9% of those other guys who said, oh, well, I didn't get the job, fuck it, you went out there and busted your ass, and you started regionally, and you didn't just go try to work for any and every promotion you could just so you could say you traveled to fucking Rhode Island to work for a show. You went and found people that could teach you, and you fucking found people who would guide you and take care of you and protect you. And you kind of started on a regional basis, and once you built your name off of that, you kind of started traveling more. So, you did what all of those other former football players didn't do, is you kept at it. And not only did you keep at it, but you're having great success at it. And so just keep that up.
I appreciate it. And I know that, like, this route is probably it could be a long road, like a very long road. And if it's a long road for a very short drive, I'm still going to do it. I mean, when I first started, I was like, I'm going to give it till 30, and if I'm not, signed by 30, I'm quitting. That's the stupidest thing I ever said. I will let this ride out until someone takes notice and is like, okay, this guy's not going to give up. Let's give him a shot. See, worst case scenario, it doesn't work out. So, I mean, I just don't know why there wouldn't be an opportunity. Because, I mean, you can't judge, like, heart, I guess you could say. And that's all these other guys want to do it for money. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, money would be great. That's awesome. But I have a good job, too. And, like, this is just what I want to do. It's what I said I'm going to do it, and I'm going to go do it. So unless somebody just says, hey, you can't. But I don't think anybody's going to say that.
How old are you?
Nah.
26.
And how long have you been wrestling exactly?
Well, 3 years pretty much. I mean, I had a couple of matches like in 2014, but I really started wrestling there December 2014 to January, and then that's when we started like the Empire, every 2 weeks or whatever. So about 3 years, 3.5 years.
Well, I can't imagine. I mean, as long as you stay on the radar and keep doing exactly what you're doing, I can't imagine you not being signed by 30. I just don't understand, because I've heard stories of the way people were signed and things such as that. I honestly just don't believe why you're not signed right now, just because I think if you got your foot in there for a week or so, they would see how coachable you were and how athletic and just everything. It boggles my mind. It really does, just because I've seen some of the people that they've signed, not only recently, but in the past. I just don't really get it. But like Dan says, you keep doing exactly what you're doing, and you're going to be absolutely fine.
Well, and those guys they sign, I mean, say they go to the Performance Center, they might not wrestle a match for a year if they even get to the point where they actually let them wrestle a match. So they've done, all that practice, and there's only so much practice you can do until you get in front of a crowd and you freeze. All my training was by Tempers and Josh, my first 20 matches in the ring.
Yeah, and it's the experience is always the best teacher, and you had a couple of great guys there working with you, two of the best to ever come out of the Chattanooga area. You had also the Strong Style Psycho Tank there as a veteran presence to give you some advice.
Yeah. So Tank texted me before I came on the show. I didn't know that Tank was like a part of the show, so I was like, yeah, I'll shoot Tank a text back when I got off the show. No big deal. So if he actually comes on this show, I just want to make it clear that I did receive the text and I wasn't ignoring him, but I was going to text him back because I don't want him to kill me either.
Retired Tank still puts the fear in the hearts of men, folks.
Even though he has never beat me, I'm undefeated against Tank unless he wants to come out of retirement.
Oh my God! I remember one of the first times that like I spent any real time with you and decided like I fucking like this kid was when I managed Tank against you, and it was it like a Harley dealership or some shit?
Yeah, so Tank was like, hey man, you want to do this booking over here at Harley? And I was like, yeah, cool, I got anything to do. So we go over there, and there's, I guess, me, him, and then I forgot who the other two were. There's two other guys maybe, and we're sitting in a tent outside, and the wind's about to blow the tent over. We're pretty much getting naked and trying to get ready, and the whole tent's blown out, where there's a bunch of Harley people walking around drinking beer, listening to a concert that's 10 feet away. Yeah, and it was hot. It was one of those days.
And you were like, this is what I've got myself into. This is indie wrestling. I went from the Performance Center to this.
Yeah, Tank was always the best to go. I didn't get to travel with him much. I traveled with him a few times, mainly to like Anarchy, but I remember it was probably one of my first, 10 matches or so. It was when me and Tempers were doing, like, where we were having matches like every other show. And we're pretty much having the same match because we'd go to a couple more places. Like, I think we went somewhere in Rome, and then, I don't know, those towns in Georgia. But we went to one place. It was me, Josh, Tank, and Tempers. And we would go down there, and Tank wrestled Josh. I wrestled Tempers. But we get there, and, like, we're looking around the locker room, and these guys, I mean, I'm not going to say what show it was at, but it was during the middle of Tank's Shipbird deal. So he goes, hey, man, you know those shows I'm talking about? All those Shipbirds on it? And I was like, yeah. He goes, welcome to it.
Yeah. He told me that, like, afterwards. He's like, man, this show was the worst. So I said,
there was some guy there that was like 80 years old in an army outfit, the general or something, saying that he used to have death matches with AJ Styles chugging bottles of Jack Daniel and see who would pass out first in a game or something. It was the craziest thing I ever listened to.
Man, you don't know who the general is? What the fuck?
I know, right? Tank was just looking at him like with his arms on his elbows on his knees, just with that Tank look, his beard, just staring through his eyes, his steely eyes, and I was like, oh my god. He's like, you know Shipbird shows? This is it.
Fantastic. Tank, you know, he always tries to play humble, but he's a great teacher. I think we can all, everybody in this room, this E-room, can say that Tank taught him something important. And, you know, I think the thing he taught me, the most important thing, was probably to stay far the fuck away from him after he farts.
Yeah, it's just pretty rough. He's not the worst.
But if he does it in the car, you can't help that.
Oh no, it's like a chemical assault. Fuck. So, enough about Tank's asshole.
So I got a question for you, Gunner. You've kind of told me before, but share with the listeners. Give us a day in the life of Gunner Miller in the gym. Give us an average day of your workout.
Oh man, well, I'll switch it up quite a bit. I'll get in little routines where I do them there for 6 or 8 weeks or so, and I've kind of had the same base routine since I was in high school, which is Joe DeFranco, who he actually trains Triple H now. So everybody's probably like, oh, you're just doing his stuff because he trains Triple H. No, I'm not. I was doing his stuff when he was training Brian Cushing, the linebacker from USC who went to the Texans, because that was one of my favorite linebackers to watch when I was in high school. He trained him, and that's what put Joe DeFranco on the map. Anyways, he's got a program that he has. It's called West Side for Skinny Bastards, and it's great. It's the perfect mixture of, like, you know, bodybuilding-ish, but also sports performance and functional training. So I've always done that type of stuff. So, you know, I'll try to get it done in the mornings. Sometimes I go through phases where I like to go at night. You know, I'm not going to say I'm the guy that wakes up every morning at 5 o'clock and goes to the gym and does cardio and eats 6 meals a day. I wish I could say that, but I'm not. I eat fast food. If I could get sponsored by McDonald's, I'd do it because I eat there a lot. I just happen to get away with it sometimes. So, I don't know. That's just kind of how it is. Everybody wants to ask, hey, can I get some diet advice? I'm like, why don't you go ask the bodybuilders that have abs that you can see from like 3 hallways away? I'm just like I'm a football build. I'm that type guy, so I'm able to eat that type of food and get away with it. I don't have to care. So, normal days, go in there for a couple hours and knock it out.
You've told me about your love of McDonald's before, and I just got to admit, I suspect that you're lying through your teeth. Because you don't look like that going to Mickey D's.
No, okay, so I did PWX Sunday night, and on the way home I got a Big Mac, 2 McChickens, a large sweet tea, and a large fry. And I didn't even wrestle. I was just with Corey. So that happens a couple times a week.
Oh, you bastard. I mean, Dan, can you imagine with my wit and with my brain that if I had the body of Gunnar Miller, just how much pussy I could get?
It wouldn't have been a successful wrestling career, of course.
I don't get, man, who gives two shits about that? That doesn't matter. I mean, I just imagine. I've said this to him before, and he's so humble. He's like, no, man, I don't get all the pussy in the world thrown at me. But that's bullshit. You know, if this guy walked in somewhere, dude, I wouldn't have to see it. If I walked into a bar with Gunnar Miller, you could just fucking smell it. Those women must lose their goddamn minds.
Oh, Andrew. Yeah, good answer. Good answer, kid. Good. In the 2017-2018 climate, let's just leave that one alone, folks.
I'm not trying to get called out in 30 years by some person saying that I said the wrong thing to him. So, no comment.
That's
true. You know what? You're absolutely right. Like, you would get signed and you would be like the WWE heavyweight champion, and somebody would dig up this podcast and be like, listen to what Gunnar Miller said about womanizing.
Seriously, and then you get fired the next day.
Right. Don't comment on it. Don't comment on it. I apologize.
A gentleman doesn't kiss and tell, Andrew.
He doesn't. I mean, I'm telling everybody right now. We're recording. He is a gentleman. He always just kind of blows me off when I say stuff like that. He's like, no, man, no, it never happened. No. And I mean, I guess he's telling the truth, but I know if I had those abs, if I had that body, shit, I couldn't run for public office because I'd get sued for sexual harassment so quick. I wouldn't ever wear a damn shirt. I promise you that.
So, just FYI, we were running a couple of minutes late start, so we'll run probably till maybe 5 after the hour, or the half hour, rather, past our normal ending time, so we can wrap up this conversation. Just got a couple more topics I wanted to address with the Anarchy Triple Crown champion. Speaking of Anarchy, what have you thought about that experience? It's something that I recommended to you way back when, and just by happenstance, I ended up as the booker, and we ended up making some fucking magic together. I really enjoyed this time, and we're certainly going to miss you when you go on to greener pastures, whenever that may be. But what has that experience been like for you?
Man, it's been awesome. I mean, like you said, you kind of went down there, or back down there, as soon as I showed up. I mean, you've seen it, how we've grown a little bit since all that's happened. I mean, we were doing shows there, at the beginning with 30, 45 people in the crowd sometimes, if it was cold, depending on the weather. And, now it's pretty much full every show, and there's awesome stories, and, the fans are invested, very invested, like trying to fight us invested. And, that's good. So I think Rick coming in and doing all that he's done has helped out tremendously. Everybody's played their part, and at the end of the day, Anarchy is a team, and I feel like I'm on one of the best indie teams we got out there. I mean, if all these other shows are so cool and so good, why don't we just have like show battles and just have each talent go up against each talent? I don't consider each promotion a team. I mean, I feel like Anarchy would go up against any of them.
There's been rumblings of that, so not outside of the realm of possibility, especially with the reach of Powerbomb TV, which I'm happy to report Anarchy signed on for 2018 and beyond with Powerbomb TV. So that's going to keep going, in addition to the NCW events that will now be added to Powerbomb TV. So it's created a lot of buzz, and I think with the networking between promotions that's going on, Anarchy's tried to work with a lot of promotions like Nova Pro and Southern Underground Pro, where you have gone and defended the Anarchy Championship. We're talking about Virginia, Washington, D.C. area, and Nashville, Tennessee. PWX, you just talked about in North Carolina. You've been getting around and getting out there. You went up to Black Label Pro in Indiana, and now we can just clarify this story here in a moment as well, just so there's no confusion, because I don't want any assholes to try to accuse me of some shit that I didn't do. But what have you learned from this traveling experience? And who are some of the favorite people that you've met out at these shows that you've kind of bonded with and, that you'd like to maybe work with down the line?
Well, I think, first of all, doing everything with Jeff got me ready to travel. Now I can go travel, and I have all you guys that have helped me, like in the back of my head, helping me, conversate with these guys that are trying to help call matches or whatever. I'm like, okay, well, what would Dan say here? What would Andy say here? What would Jeff say here? What would Tank say here? All those questions that pop into my head, all you guys help answer them. It's just coming out of my mouth. So it's been fun. I've got to defend the belt a little bit. Yeah. The crowds have been, receiving of me. Some places, like I said, I came off as a heel. Some places they like me as like a baby. And as far as some guys that I've met along the way, I'm really digging AJ Gray. I like that he gets out there and travels around. He's another football player. I've got to work him a couple times. Once at Anarchy, both was for the Anarchy Triple Crown. And he's out there willing to travel, and I think guys need to definitely, take some interest in him. And I seem to run into, I'm going to get his name wrong. He's going to be so pissed. But, is it Sugar Dunkerton? I guess. I know it's Dunkerton. That dude is hilarious. I don't know. Some guys might not like him or whatever, but I like him. He seems to be, at Nova when I'm at Nova. PWM's from there. He's pretty much everywhere I am. And then a guy that I worked that I've just seen once, it was MJF, and he was really cool to work with. He's 21 years old, and he's pretty much the typical millennial character. Like, he plays it perfect. I think because he's just playing him. He probably comes off that way. But he's 21 years old and been in it for like a year or 2 years, and he's blown up already. So he was really good. But, guys like that, I'm sure I'm missing a bunch of people, but it's hard to shake hands with everybody and then remember their name after you shake their hands 30 times at each show.
Oh, yeah. No, I was just more looking for people you made a connection with, and it sounds like, that's you do a lot of glad handing on these shows, man, almost to an unnecessary degree.
So can we talk about that and get off subject for a second? Why
Sure.
is it necessary to almost shake somebody's hand you wouldn't do that in real life. If somebody was sitting there eating food at a restaurant, you wouldn't walk up hey man, how you doing, Gunner? And just shake their hand as they're mid mouth, putting the food into their mouth. And that's what everybody does. You could be both hands full, carrying both your stuff, and drinking a drink. Somebody's like, hey man, Gunner. And I'm like, I'm sorry, man, elbow. I just don't get it.
They'll be like, that guy's disrespectful. He didn't shake my hand.
Yeah, if I walked into the football locker room every day and shook everybody's hand, nobody liked me. Everybody liked me, 100%.
Yeah, a lot of that is unnecessary. It's just customs that are held over.
But if you don't do it, the guy's like, I'm looking at my show. No way, he didn't shake my hand. Nope, not doing it. So, whatever.
Yeah, you
Good way
can
to
wait
get the
till you put
blues.
the bags down.
Yeah, for sure. So your traveling experience has been a good thing, and I'm glad to hear you're getting out there. And more of that is going to keep the eyes on you. And we also appreciate you taking the Anarchy title to that level. Jeff has called it the Real World Championship. You've called it the Real World Championship. And instead of just calling it that, you've gone out there and tried to prove it with your actions. So pretty damned impressive. Of course, the fans will be able to see you coming up at Anarchy Wrestling on January 27th when you defend the Triple Crown Championship against the Nightmare, Kyle Matthews. I know you tangled with Kyle a time or two, but I believe both of you are at your peak right now. What are you thinking about going into that matchup?
I'm so excited for that match on a personal level. Like, I've been talking to Kyle, and I was like, man, I don't know whenever you're going to be done or whatever, but before that happens, I'm one of those matches. I don't care if we have to book that thing at my house and I have to film it so that way I can have it. I want to have another Kyle Matthews match. Now, on the flip side of that, I'm going to beat Kyle Matthews and destroy him in 27th.
Fantastic. And we're getting ready to wrap her up here, but just before we go, give us a rundown of where you're going to be, where the fans can see you, and plug your social media.
All right, so Twitter is Real Gunner M11. Instagram is Gunner Miller 423. Places I'm going to be at here pretty soon. I've got Anarchy coming up. I'm actually going to do the new promotion in town, Chattanooga Pro. I think it's their first show. I'm from Chattanooga. Why not? Joey got hurt, so they needed somebody to replace him. Joey's my boy, so I figured I'd give him somebody local that, on that level up there. So doing that show, and I'll be back at Nova Pro on my birthday, wrestling Eric Royal. That's going to be a big match. He seems to be one of their top babies up there, and they don't seem to like me at that place. So that'll be a good match. And then I'm hoping to get back up to Black Label Pro. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that show this past weekend due to the snow. So if anybody thinks that, I said I was not going because of the snow just so I could go to the Anarchy show, that's not true. I had originally booked the Black Label Pro show, and there was some confusion on the poster or whatever, but I was trying to get up there, and there was snow like as soon as you got to Nashville all the way through Kentucky, and that's my trip. So it wouldn't have been safe having to make that trip and then 11 hours to North Carolina the next day. So.
Yeah, and that's something I wanted to throw out there before we sign off. Like, the deal with the poster was I totally forgot that Gunner told me he was booked there. That's generally how we do the Anarchy thing, since it's the home promotion. If you're a regular for us, I just expect you to be there unless you tell me you're not. And so he told me, but I'd had a phone switch from the time he told me until then, so I lost my notes. Also forgot Jeff wasn't going to be there. So, when I sent the card over, it was sent to promotion and published. And then Gunner was like, hey, man, I'm doing Black Label Pro that night. I was like, shit, sorry. We'll get an announcement out there. And we was actually going to have him on the podcast last week, and we were going to address it then. And then the weather situation happened, and he was like, well, I can't go north, but I can go south, so I'm going to come do Anarchy. I was like, all right, well, that's cool. So it ended up working out in our favor, of course, but we wanted him to have the match with Tom Lawler. We still want him to have the match with Tom Lawler. A huge follow-up to the victory over Matt Riddle back at Christmas Chaos. And so that was my screw-up. No one else's. There was no malicious intent behind it. And if you need evidence, there is a promo on Jeff G. Bailey's YouTube page that is unedited. That is the promo that he recorded to air originally, which I then had edited for television to remove all references to Gunner not being there. So stick that in your pipe and smoke it.
That's right.
I had no idea about this situation, but from both being a booker and wrestling at Anarchy for years, I know that everything you just said is 100% true, because that's how that shit happened. So I'm sure y'all just explained all that, because would you get some heat online or something for this?
No, but
I
for
haven't.
some reason, I haven't either. But for some reason, if the slightest thing goes wrong in either a match of mine or any type of anything of mine, certain people like to say things. So, but nobody did. I'm just trying to prevent people from doing it. That's why I make little sly comments every now and then.
Well, yeah, I just trying to do some damage control in advance, in case anybody thought there was anything untoward going on there.
Well, you ain't got to explain shit. They can kiss all of our asses.
Well, actually, if they want to talk to me, they can talk to my attorney. They can speak to Jess because he's a lot better at doing that than I.
Fantastic. Well, I'm glad we're able to clear all that up. Any final comments, guys, before we get out of here?
Yeah,
That's about
I'm definitely. I want to let you know I'm a Gunnar Miller fan for sure. I always have been. We've done a pretty good job of kissing your ass tonight, but it's well deserved stuff. Hopefully, when you get big, you won't forget the little guys like me and Dan. You've always been very complimentary to me, saying that I helped you a lot in the beginning, but I really didn't do shit. You did pretty much all that on your own. With of course, Ace helped a lot, but when you make it to WrestleMania, I'll then take credit for all your humble beginnings.
Appreciate that, man. You definitely were there at the beginning. And, I mean, even when you're around now, you always come up and you give good advice. So I appreciate everything, and I'll always listen to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. Gunnar, any last words to the listeners?
I mean, that's about it, man. I'm glad I was on the show. Actually, I did wrestle Riddle, and I was going to wrestle Lawler. So I figure after I beat him, if Anarchy could book Dan Severn, and then after that, Ken Shamrock, I feel like that's the progression. I would like to take out all the UFC guys.
You get Severn,
So we
I'll
can
make
make
the
that
drive.
What?
You get Severn, I'll make the drive.
I think a lot of people would.
The people's
I'm going to use this theme song, too.
I mean-
It's awesome.
The People's Captain versus the most dangerous mustache in MMA. Yeah, I'll be there for that.
Stranger things have happened, guys. Stranger things have happened. But we are out of time. Thank you so much, Gunnar, for joining the show. Past Eddie Layne, thank you as always for hosting us, Andrew Alexander. Thank you again. You can catch me on social media at Dragons Rejects or follow Anarchy at Anarchy Landmark on Twitter, Facebook.com/Anarchy Wrestling, and subscribe on Powerbomb.tv. Only $10 a month, and use the promo code Anarchy for 20 days free. Keep one foot in the gutter and one fist in the gold. Good night.